After months of study, I proudly present this Arcanas index entry of Forspoken, the definitive analysis, world, and mana compendium. What is reality if not a story we tell ourselves? A city that never sleeps, a girl with nowhere to go, a world on the brink of collapse. In this Arcana's Index entry, we will break down the world of Forspoken and its secrets behind the point of view of each major arcana. Frey Holland never believed in fate, but fate had other plans for her. Torn from the streets of New York and cast into a realm where magic defies logic, she finds herself entangled in a history not her own. A land ruled by broken gods, whispers of lost wisdom, and a corruption that spreads like wildfire. In this journey, we follow the major arcanas, each step revealing the layers of Aphia's past, its present struggles, and the forces that shape its future. The world. Aphia was once a land of radiant wonder, an untouched canvas of beauty, harmony, and secret wisdom. But now it lies shattered beneath the weight of a curse known only as the Break. Aphia is made up of four realms, each governed by its own Tanta. To the north lies Junun with its rich fecund forests. To the east, Prainost, heavy with mountains. Westward, the great plains of Visoria stretch off to the horizon, and to the south, the shimmering waters of Avoale glisten in the sun. Or at least they did before the corruption brought misery and ruin upon the land. The Fool, beginnings, freedom, and potential. Every great adventure starts with a leap. Sometimes it's a stumble straight into another world. Frey Holland wasn't born with a silver spoon. She was born with a bad attitude and a New York accent that could cut glass. Raised on the gritty sidewalks of a city that never forgave, she learned early that survival demanded a fierce independence and a healthy dash of irreverence. Orphaned and abandoned beneath the looming arches of the Holland Tunnel, Frey became a master of scrappy resourcefulness. A true modern-day fool set adrift on destiny's unpredictable current. Before destiny's bizarre twist swept her away to Aphia, Frey's world was a chaotic blend of alleyway hustle and reluctant lessons in street justice. Her misadventures, from narrowly escaping the clutches of overzealous law enforcement to outwitting gangsters with nothing but her wit and stubborn spirit, shaped her into the reluctant anti-hero we meet in Aphia. And while she'd sooner spend her days dodging trouble than embracing it, fate, and a very peculiar talking bracelet had other plans. A glimmering, almost mocking piece of jewelry chose her as its bearer, catapulting her from the concrete jungles of New York into the mystical ruins of Aphia. This leap, as clumsy and unexpected as a subway delay, marks the beginning of a journey where every misstep carries the weight of destiny and every stumble hints at a deeper calling. Frey's origins remind us that sometimes being the fool isn't about ignorance. It's about having the courage to step off the familiar edge, even if you're grumbling all the way down. It's a beginning that sets the stage for a transformation that's as unpredictable as it is inevitable. The Magician, knowledge and willpower. From the moment Cuff latches onto her wrist, she is thrust into the domain of the Magician, a figure of mastery, transformation, and the will to shape reality. At the heart of her abilities lies elemental magic, channeled through her deepening connection with Aphia's energies. Unlike traditional fantasy settings where spellcasting relies on external rituals or incantations, Frey's magic is innate but evolving, an extension of both willpower and personal growth. Each elemental branch embodies a different aspect of Aphia's lost power. Each school of magic is a philosophical and symbolic shift in Frey's understanding of herself and the world. The magician's journey is the path of initiation, where knowledge transforms raw potential into true mastery. Now let's break down the spells and their deeper implications. Purple magic, the power of earth. The foundation of all things is strength, unyielding, unshaken, and unstoppable. The alchemical prima materia. Frey's starting power, Earth magic, represents her grounded nature, both literally and metaphorically. She is new to Athia, still learning, still unshaped. Earth magic is often tied to stability, endurance, and creation. Yet in alchemy, it also symbolizes the prima materia, the raw substance needed for transformation. Hermetic insight. Earth is the first stage of the great work, representing base matter that must be refined. Frey's first brush with the arcane is through earth magic, symbolizing stability, endurance, and the power of creation itself. Burst shot fires forth lumps of explosive rock that deal area damage. Scatter shot fires a steady stream of rocks while charging, then unleashes a high-impact, long-range projectile when released. Shield shot creates a defensive shield while charging, which is blasted forward in pieces when released. Leech causes magical, poison-curing plants to spring forth from within you. Screen surrounds you with stones that defend against enemy attacks. Burrow sends out items seeking roots. The more loot you find, the more quickly your support magic will recharge. Prime places a magical trap in a spot of your choosing that explodes when stripped on, dealing area damage. Disperse causes flowers to spring up in a spot of your choosing that pick up nearby rocks and fling them at enemies. Implant fire seeds into enemies that continue to deal damage for a short period. Bind ties enemies up in a tangle of weeds. Tendril uses a vine to hit all enemies in a small radius and heals for a small percentage of damage dealt. Genesis Level 1 summons barbed branches which are fired out in front of you, skewering enemies over a wide area. Level 2 hits harder and over a wider area when held. Level 3 strikes and poisons enemies over a huge area when held even longer, blooms glowing flowers, and a full tree as ultimate Earth's magic expression. Conjuration Transmutation. Frey's earth spells conjure rocks and vines. She can bind and trap enemies via plants and crystals. This aligns with conjuration, creating material effects, and transmutation, animating plants, shaping earth. Earth is the first stage of transmutation. Matter is shaped, controlled, and solidified. Red magic, the fire of will. To command fire is to command the soul. Destruction and passion are two sides of the same flame. The phoenix, destruction, and rebirth. Fire magic represents power, destruction, but also purification and transformation. In alchemy, fire is necessary to burn away the dross and reveal the philosopher's stone. Fire is the calcinatio phase, where all that is false is reduced to ash, allowing true wisdom to emerge. Gaining fire magic marks a turning point. Frey becomes more aggressive, more assertive, but also more aware of her own strength. If magic can create and destroy, does fire represent the breaking of the old order? Fire is where the magician's transformation truly begins. No longer content to defend or react, Frey's red magic is about assertion, raw energy, and the power of destruction as a means of rebirth. Rage Slice unleashes a flurry of magical punches while charging, then sends enemies flying with explosive force when released. Arc Slice, a lightning-quick area slice with huge magical sword. Blast Slice throws a magical spear at an enemy that damages them and TG surrounding area. Beacon, a light in the darkness that increases the speed at which stamina recharges. Legion summons a host of fiery soldiers to attack the enemy. Crucible encloses the area in fiery walls, inside which attack power is increased. Fire Trap causes lava to bubble up beneath the enemy and simmer away for a hot minute. Charge, a forward rush with a magical shield that drives enemies back on impact. Bombardier kicks enemies backward with fiery force, triggering an explosion that damages foes over an area. Aegis summons the protective power of Cleansing Flame to erase any attack or defense-reducing effects. Fusillade Summons multiple fiery swords that protect you by attacking enemies while you're charging up your magic. Conflagration Level 1 calls forth a fiery column that spatters enemies with magma, which remains on the ground for a short while after the attack. Level 2 hits harder and over a wider area when held. Level 3 explodes and flies wildly around the battlefield, launching serpentine sparks and scorching rays to demolish all that remains as a superb illustration of the power of fire itself. Fire Evocation. She uses raw, destructive magic, flaming blades, explosions to overpower foes. This aligns with evocation elemental damage. Fire in its highest form is the drive of the magician, the force that reshapes destiny itself, but in this world is the first magic experience outside our starting one for some reason. Blue magic, the flow of water. Control is not about rigidity, it's about knowing when to move and when to hold. The lunar, subconscious, and emotional alchemy. Water magic introduces fluidity, adaptability, and a connection to the subconscious and hidden knowledge. In Hermetic tradition, water is linked to the moon, emotions, and the reflective nature of the self. Water is the dissolution phase of alchemy, where impurities are washed away to reveal deeper truths. Frey gains water magic after significant emotional turmoil, suggesting that her own psychological transformation mirrors the purification process. Water's link to the subconscious raises the question: does magic remember? Are there hidden truths within magic itself that only water can reveal? Once Frey gains access to water magic, her combat style shifts. Unlike Earth's resilience, water is about adaptation, redirection, and fluid mastery. These spells symbolize the philosophy of flow, an esoteric principle seen in Hermetic traditions where understanding the currents of reality. Chain Bolt fires an arrow upon charging and another upon release. If both strike in the same place, bonus damage is dealt. Fembolt fires a spray of magically linked arrows out in front of you, dealing damage over the entire area cover. Cluster Bolt fires an arrow which breaks up in midair, raining down bolts that deal damage in a wide area. Naidre sends a poisonous column of water snaking toward the enemy that can envenomate those it strikes. Oubliette, an attack which forms an enormous ball of water in which the enemy is trapped. Striking the ball causes an area explosion. Eager emits a watery barrier over a wide area, sending NRRB enemies flying. Maelstrom summons a watery pillar in the designated spot that protects against ranged attacks. Albi dramatically reduces the damage caused by a single incoming unblockable or piercing attack. Ablution causes a purifying rain to fall that can cure status ailments that slow stamina recovery. Broom, an attack that kicks up an obscuring spray around the enemy, making it hard for them to spot you. Cataract Level 1 spins up a watery vortex that sucks in enemies, damaging them as it does so. Level 2, upon holding, sends pillars of water out to attack enemies. Level 3, after long holding, suddenly, water particles turn from the flowy geyser into a merciless mortal iceberg as the final power of the code's statement. Her blue magic creates water projectiles and barriers, e.g. maelstrom shielding waters. This suggests conjuration, calling forth elemental forces, or even abjuration, protective wards of water. Water represents the ability to surrender and control simultaneously, a lesson Frey must internalize as she grows. Green magic, the Tempest's wrath. Storms do not ask permission, they simply arrive. Wind, electricity, ascension, and the divine spark. Wind and electricity magic symbolize movement, transcendence, and the celestial realms. In Hermeticism, wind is often linked to the breath of life, the divine logos, and the energy that moves the cosmos. Wind is the final stage of spiritual ascent, representing the moment when the alchemist breaks free from the material world. By the time Frey obtains this magic, she has embraced her role and is no longer bound by self-doubt. Connection to Athia. If wind is transcendence, does this mean that the ultimate purpose of magic is liberation? From the break, from the past, or even from mortality itself? Seeker Dart emits an electrical attack that arcs between any darts embedded in enemies. Pulse Dart sends beams of light at any darts embedded in enemies that shoot right through them, dealing damage as they go. Storm Dart emits electrical energy while charging, then unleashes a shockwave when released that will also strike any darts embedded in enemies. Displacement creates an illusory copy of Frey in a designated spot that enemies will attack instead of her. Compulsion summons multiple mines that float in the air and explode when enemies touch or attack them. Projection sends a storm-charged spear flying into an enemy that emits electricity over the surrounding area. Distortion attacks enemies and engulfs them in a mind-fuddling mist that also causes them to attack each other. Aggression sends out a speed of darts in a fan formation that will mark those they strike as targets for charged attacks. Sublimation absorbs life force from the surrounding area, slowly healing health as a result. Compensation heightens the senses, causing surge magic to charge more quickly when enemies are successfully evaded using flow. Suppression erases all trace of the user, making them harder for enemies to locate. Sudden movement will cancel the effect. Tempest Level 1 calls up lightning from the earth to electrocute enemies over a wide area. Level 2 electrocute enemies more viciously and over a wider area when held. Level 3 break fractals around the caster, shattering pieces of reality as supreme air mastery. Olas's signature is illusion. She traps Frey in a phantasm and mind-affecting magic. Her distortion mist even turns foes on each other. Thus, illusion and enchantment best describe her magic rather than straightforward evocation. Here, she becomes a wielder of the final stage of transformation. Storm magic is about unleashing the forces that lie beyond mortal control. Is magic an inherent force or an external gift? From a hermetic perspective, magic in Forspoken aligns with concepts of theurgy, divine magic, alchemy, transmutation, and goetic invocation, external magical forces. The Tanta's power may mirror Hermetic kingship, where rulers are divine magicians who channel cosmic forces. Frey's magic unlocks in stages based on her experiences, a reflection of her internal growth. Tanta magic appears to be shaped by personal identity rather than just raw power, suggesting magic reflects the wielder's soul, desires, and trauma. Svargana, or the Wellspring, is the final resting place of the Tantas, though its origins and exact nature are shrouded in mystery. Its existence likely predates that of Athia itself. The High Priestess. Secrets and mysteries, hidden lore, cryptic forces, conspiracies. The truth is rarely what we expect it to be. The deeper we look, the more the world shifts beneath our feet. The Cognoscents are a group of elite scholars originally founded in Visoria, tasked with collecting all of Athia's knowledge so that it might be put to use in service of the people. Though originally based in a relatively humble underground facility beneath their homeland, their operations quickly expanded and the great towers or guilds soon sprang up across the land. They were revered as benevolent and knowledgeable savants. Perhaps one of Athia's greatest mysteries is the truth behind the locked labyrinths found across the land. It is not known precisely what magic keeps them sealed. Tantas may well have locked them, as they are the only ones who have ever been known to enter. They are rumored to be treacherous places guarded by terrifying beasts. These beasts are there to protect ancient relics. Athia is a land riddled with mysteries, lost knowledge, forbidden places, and powers that defy explanation. The world Frey steps into is shrouded in layers of secrecy, with truths buried beneath history, magic, and deception. But what are the most crucial mysteries? What is deliberately hidden and what is simply forgotten? The origin of the break, a natural cataclysm or a deliberate curse. Breakstorms are maelstroms of highly concentrated corruption that occasionally form in places where the break is strongest. While records of them have been found in cognizance guilds across Athia, not much is known about them as no human has ever approached one and survived to tell the tale. However, several reports feature claims of enormous monsters lurking within. The break is the single greatest enigma of Forspoken, a phenomenon that warps reality itself, corrupting life and reshaping the land. But is it truly an accident? The break is often described as an unnatural force, something that should not exist. Does this mean it was created intentionally? If the break originated from a rift in reality, does it suggest an entity or power beyond Athia's understanding? The Tantas were not just affected by it, they became conduits for its corruption. While the Cognoscent's controversial research into how living creatures could be corrupted by the break continued, reports of an altogether more frightening phenomenon began to emerge. Devastatingly powerful beings created entirely from the corruption itself. While some were skeptical at first, the tales of entire guilds being wiped out by such beings were too similar to ignore, and even the most skeptical dissenters were soon forced to accept that a whole new nightmare was upon them. Extended exposure to the most intense levels of the break can cause mutations so extreme that the resulting organism is almost unrecognizable. Sadly, little is known about them, as break levels where they appear are so high that witnesses inevitably die before they can give more than the briefest of descriptions. The original aim of the research, in which subjects were deliberately exposed to the break, had been to solve the mysteries of the process of corruption, thereby revealing ways in which it could be counteracted. Sadly, this noble goal was never achieved, and as the realms fell one after another to the encroaching miasma, the cognizance experiments with lives already hanging in the balance grew to seem increasingly misguided. Some would even say it was lucky that the guilds were consumed before things could progress any further than they did. The Empress, Creation and Life. In the days before the break, Tanta Cinta was known for her great interest in the field of medicine. It was under her guidance, and thanks to Junoon's mild climate, that the realm's physic gardens flourished and research into the development of new medicines progressed. In its prime, Junoon was not only the source of most of Athia's medicinal herbs, but also of its knowledge of their preparation and application. A painting of one of Junoon's many physic gardens, where a wide array of medicinal herbs were grown for both local consumption and export to the other realms. The people of Junoon were hugely knowledgeable in the field of botany, particularly when it came to species with curative properties. Most families would plant their own herbs in gardens like this one and use them to brew ointments or medicines for everyday injuries or illnesses. Herbs also featured heavily in the traditional cuisine of the realm. Athia is a realm where the forces of creation still pulse beneath the devastation. In this category, we explore the life-giving and restorative aspects of Athia, its flora, healing magics, potions, and the enduring power of nature to regenerate even in the face of overwhelming decay. The Empress represents that nurturing, creative force, a divine reminder that life in all its vibrant forms persists even amid ruin. The living landscape of Athia. In the wilds beyond crumbling cities, nature fights back. Lush groves, hidden gardens, and enchanted grottos hint at a world that, despite the break, continues to thrive in secret. These pockets of life serve as both sanctuary and resource, offering healing herbs, rare materials, and even clues to ancient forgotten lore. While ballow trees were long seen as sacred by Athens, making it a crime to cut them down or otherwise harm them, an exception was made when research by the cognoscents revealed that their wood has the mysterious power to repel dangerous beasts. Ever since this discovery was made, it has been used in the construction of safe houses to protect the pilgrims and other travelers who patronize them. The ballow tree is a species only found in Athia, specifically in Avoalé. Its unique properties and remarkable glowing blue flowers make it both a long-standing symbol of the realm and the object of almost religious reverence. While the break's effect on humans and animals is almost immediate, it is much slower to develop in plants and in some cases does not develop at all. Some species, such as the ballow tree native to Avoalé, even seem to have the ability to reverse its corrupting effect. While the mechanisms behind this phenomenon have yet to be fully understood, it is thought by some that the study of such anomalies may hold the key to combating the menace of the break. Much like everything else in Athia, the minerals of the various realms have been greatly changed by the break. Some have developed new shapes or colors, others have begun to give off light, and certain varieties have even turned completely to liquid. Minerals exposed to the highest possible levels of the break almost seem to develop a life of their own, a phenomenon so fascinating that many cognoscents have risked life and limb trying to collect and study them. The art of healing magic in Athia involves crafting potions and restorative spells that mirror the natural cycles of decay and regrowth. In this domain, the delicate balance between life and death is maintained through careful alchemy, gathering the right herbs, distilling rare ingredients, and channeling them into potent elixirs that mend wounds and renew vitality. In the midst of decay, a single blossom dares to speak of hope. Athia's vast, scarred lands hide secrets of renewal even in the depths of corruption. Amidst crumbling ruins and pervasive decay, nature still asserts its resilient voice. As lore. Throughout Athia, scattered flavor texts on consumables, enchanted relics, and even mundane items hint at a deeper, almost mythic narrative. Every potion brewed and every enchanted cloak worn is imbued with a story, one that recalls ancient rites of healing and rejuvenation. The sacred groves. In the wilderness, hidden among twisted trees and broken stone, lie the sacred groves, places where the natural and supernatural merge. When the corruption encroached yet further, it was these fields that the people sought to protect above all else. But how does one drive back the tide? Their efforts were for nothing, and the miasma took their livelihoods and then their lives swiftly and without mercy. Notable herbs. Balm flax. Common across all realms of Athia, this hardy herb was used for healing draughts before the break, and remains unaffected by the corruption. Crabgrass, native to Praenost's arid land, its nutrient-storing plumes gained magical properties under the break, allowing it to enhance equipment. Shore violet. Avoale waterside blooms were long believed to be magical, confirmed by their thriving under the break. Useful in equipment upgrades. Tall astera, a Visorian plains plant known for repelling insects and curing poison. Now break-touched, it carries enhancement magic. Junoon's mantle. Once cultivated in Junoon's gardens for medicine, these flowers have grown wild and magical since the break, enhancing equipment. Wild musk, formerly a culinary favorite, now corrupted and inedible. The wild variety that remains is still usable to improve gear. Flute blossom. A sparse wildflower with tubular petals, now infused with potent magical crafting properties. Bumbershoot, a rare oversized mushroom found in damp regions. Its massive magic storing caps make it a top-tier crafting ingredient. The Emperor, order and authority. In the ruins of power, order once reigned supreme. In Athia, amid the chaos wrought by the break, the remnants of ancient orders still whisper of a time when rulers governed with strength and purpose. The emperor represents that lost era of structured authority, a time when the pillars of governance, law, and control maintained balance in the realm. The last bastion of humanity in a world ravaged by the break. Sipal was founded as an independent territory beyond the jurisdiction of any single one of Afia's realms, as its primary purpose was to act as a neutral place for the four Tantas to meet. It was very quiet for most of the year, with no more than a few hundred residents. However, as the break continued to spread, and increasing numbers of people fled their homes in terror, the city soon found itself overrun with tens of thousands of refugees. Today, Sipal is divided into the upper and lower cities. While the rations the council provides are distributed evenly between both districts, the discrepancy between the two in terms of quality of life is hard to ignore. The Tantas, once heralded as divine rulers, embodied both the benevolence and the tyranny of absolute power. Their reigns, marked by both visionary governance and eventual corruption, illustrate a timeless lesson. Unchecked authority can become the architect of its own downfall. From an occult perspective, the emperor archetype in Athia resonates with the Hermetic principle of correspondence, where the macrocosm reflects the microcosm. Thus, the emperor is not merely about dominance, he is also the keeper of structure in a realm where the forces of magic have unraveled traditional hierarchies. His presence challenges us to ponder whether true order is static or if it must adapt to the inevitable tides of transformation. The Hierophant, divine law and forbidden knowledge. The Hierophant represents the sacred traditions, religious authority, and the interplay between revealed wisdom and hidden truths. In Athia, divine law once shaped the world. But as the land fell into decay, the boundaries between sacred teachings and forbidden knowledge blurred. The majestic white walls of Tanta Sinta's former residence once stood as proud testament to the people of Junoon's devotion to perfection in all aspects of the arts. Sadly, the castle has now fallen into disrepair and barely a trace remains of the beautiful physic gardens for which the realm was once renowned. The ground near the castle has been shattered as if by a giant impact. Montasila's stronghold perches ominously atop tall cliffs, encircled by great walls that stretch all the way down to the town beneath. Within these ramparts, a vast army was once stationed, ready to go to war at a moment's notice. The near impenetrable fortifications were constructed in such a way that enemies would be forced to approach almost in single file, as no normal person could hope to scale the surrounding cliffs. In a rare nod to comfort, the corridor approaching the throne room is decorated with paintings depicting the glory of the Tantas in their heyday. The most striking feature of Tantaprav's castle is the great sphere of water that hovers imposingly above the courtroom situated on its rooftop. Within it lies the special chamber Prav uses to conduct the trial by water, a ceremony in which criminals pronounced guilty must attempt to prove their innocence. While the building itself may appear untouched by the events of recent years, the corpses that line the corridors, the remains of unlucky souls, the mad Tanta tortured to death tell a different story. Tanta Olas's citadel jutes up from the depths of a great hole in the ground to tower over the plains of Visoria. Once known as the home of all Athia's knowledge, its head-spinning heights are filled from top to bottom with books, most of which were written by cognoscents, her faithful army of scholars and scribes. A huge impact of some kind has smashed through the uppermost layers, leaving the throne room stranded somewhere in the castle beneath. The Lovers. In a land of shattered magic and broken oaths, the strongest power is that which binds hearts together. In Athia, amidst the chaos and corruption of the break, it is not just elemental magic that endures, it is the bonds between souls. The lover's archetype in this realm is not solely about romance. It is about every profound connection that gives meaning to existence, offering hope, unity, and the promise of renewal. Frey's journey is punctuated by the relationships she forms along the way. Her bond with the enigmatic Cinta, her long-lost mother and once revered Tanta, illustrates that even the severed ties of family can be a source of strength and guidance. Equally significant is the unexpected camaraderie forged with figures like Auden, the compassionate healer whose gentle counsel and unwavering loyalty offer Frey solace amid the tumult, reinforce the idea that every relationship, whether born of blood, fate, or choice, is a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Beyond personal ties, the collective bond of Afia's people reflected in their shared rituals, forgotten oaths, and the legends inscribed on relics reveals a deeper truth that unity is the counterforce to disintegration. In a realm where even magic is fracturing, the connections between individuals are the purest form of power, a testament to the transformative strength of love, friendship, and loyalty. The Chariot, movement, and commerce. In Afia, even the roads tell a story of speed, survival, and the pulse of commerce that keeps hope alive in a crumbling world. A painting of an enormous bridge in Avoale. Several people can be seen crossing it, including a merchant hauling their wares to market. In the days before the break, Athens were free to travel between the realms as they pleased, and Lenian regulations allowed trade to flourish. Merchants would simply declare their goods at checkpoints, and inspections were brief, if not non-existent. While it was theoretically possible for merchants to make dishonest declarations under such lax enforcement, very few dared break the law so close to the home of the Tanta of Justice herself. A painting of a large shimmering lake in Avoale, a small town, can be seen on the far shore. Avoale's crystal clear water was perhaps its most valuable commodity. Its high mineral content gave it a unique flavor, and it was highly prized in Afia's other realms. It was particularly popular in Praenos, where it was said to complement the harsh region's meat-heavy cuisine especially well. Praenos Castle was built around a century ago, a great fortress atop a forbidding precipice, as befits a realm dedicated to war. At first, the Tanta would descend into the lands below to rule her people, but in time the castle itself attracted smiths and those who supplied them, and a city quickly sprang up around it. A painting of a fortress, with Junun Castle's majestic silhouette visible in the distance. The people of Junun greatly valued artistic pursuits of all kinds. Evidence of this could be found all over the realm, and even a fortress such as this one would have been alive with the sounds of song and laughter throughout the day and night. The chariot represents not only the swift acrobatic traversal that defines Frey's journey, but also the engine of economic and social exchange that sustains the remnants of civilization. Frey's own high-speed maneuvers also serves as a reminder that movement in Athia is more than mere escape. It is a way to reclaim lost freedom. The fluidity of her parkour is seamlessly integrated with elemental magic, transforming every sprint, leap, and dodge into an act of defiance against the world's decay. The marketplaces of Sipal. While Athia's landscape is torn apart by the break, life persists in the marketplaces of Sipal. Here, trade is a celebration of resilience. In these bazaars, merchants peddle enchanted items, rare herbs, and relics imbued with forgotten lore. Beyond the physical and economic, the chariot in Athia symbolizes the spirit of transition, a force that propels both individuals and the collective forward. This poetic reminder speaks to the dual nature of movement. It is a physical act of evasion and exploration. 8. Strength, the resilient fauna of Athia. In the silent watch of the feline eyes, the Tanta's wisdom forever lies. The natural world of Athia has not been spared from the devastation of the break. Many creatures have succumbed to the corruption, mutating into monstrous entities, while others have found ways to endure against overwhelming odds. The surviving fauna represents a testament to nature's ability to adapt, endure, and thrive even in the harshest conditions. Corrupted creatures, beasts of the break. Many of Afia's animals have been twisted by the break, their very essence altered into something terrifying. Some retain traces of their original nature, but they have been transformed into relentless, predatory forces. Familiars, guardians of arcane strength. Throughout Athia, mystical familiars appear as creatures that defy the corruption of the break, serving as spiritual companions rather than mere beasts. Their presence suggests that, despite the world's collapse, magic retains a certain purity, an untouched strength that persists beyond destruction. As Frey traverses Athia, she encounters these elusive creatures at familiar monuments scattered across the land. Approaching them requires patience and subtlety, as they are notably skittish. Successfully befriending a familiar allows it to appear in pilgrims' refuges, offering solace and a sense of continuity in Frey's journey. Unlike the corrupted fauna of Athia, familiars remain untainted by the break, roaming freely as if under some unknown protection. They manifest as various cat-like forms, each tied to a distinct aspect of Athia's lost magical traditions. Their resilience suggests a hidden power, one that perhaps hails from before the Tanta's fall, or even older forces that have been watching over Athia since time immemorial. Their continued existence suggests that strength isn't just about survival, but about maintaining a deeper, arcane connection to the world itself. Notable familiars: Homer, Frey's cat and the only family she has. Homer started out as a stray who occasionally wandered into Frey's apartment, but once Frey started feeding her new friend, a bond began to develop, and they've been inseparable ever since. When Frey's apartment building burned down and she thought all hope was lost, her last good deed was to see that Homer had somewhere safe to live. Claire, one of Tantasila's familiars. He can usually be found prowling around Praenos, seemingly uncowed by the break. Claire once served as Scylla's second pair of eyes, patrolling the realm and reporting back to her if trouble was afoot. When she lost her mind to the break, he left her side to ensure that the people of Praenos made it to Sipal safely, but returned home immediately afterward, perhaps to watch over his beloved mistress from a safe distance. Constantia, one of Tantasila's familiars. She can usually be found frolicking around Praenost, seemingly uncowed by the break. Constantia was a faithful familiar, often entrusted with delivering Scylla's most private correspondence. It is said that she came to know Praenos' every nook and cranny better than almost any other living soul, not just because her duties required her to travel extensively, but because she was also endlessly inquisitive by nature. Mia, one of Tantasila's familiars, she can usually be found lounging around Praenos, seemingly uncowed by the break. During wartime, Mia was in charge of delivering Scylla's orders to her troops. Her adorable appearance made her a very popular sight on the front lines, and even the most battle-hardened soldiers couldn't resist patting her when she passed by. Ziti, one of Tantasila's familiars. He can usually be found dashing around Praenos, seemingly uncowed by the break. Scylla used to put Ziti on guard duty at Praenos Castle, despite his total lack of interest in the job. Time and again, he snuck off into town only to be caught by a well-meaning citizen and delivered back to the castle for a scolding. Rinat, one of Tanta Prav's familiars. She can usually be found sitting primly around Avoalet, seemingly uncowed by the break. Rinat was once in charge of standing guard over the criminals Prav had imprisoned. When the break encroached upon Avoalet, she was faced with a difficult decision. Should she release the prisoners and save them, or leave them to their fate? In the end, she could not bear to let them die. She watches over the realm to this day, though there is nobody left for her to keep safe. Aramak, one of Tantaprav's familiars. She can usually be found padding quietly around Avoalet, seemingly uncowed by the break. Aramak used to help Prav with her trials by searching for evidence at crime scenes. She always behaved demurely when conducting investigations in order not to attract unwanted attention, but it wasn't entirely clear if this was an act even to Prav herself. Gregoire, one of Tanta Prav's familiars. He can usually be found relaxing around Avoilette, seemingly uncowed by the break. Gregoire's talent for information gathering led him to serve as Prav's chief source of intelligence on the goings-on around Afia. It seemed there was no secret he couldn't sniff out, be it gossip from around town or top-secret military maneuverings. He even tried to dig up dirt on the Tantas themselves, but they proved too guarded even for him, a fact he regrets to this day. Saglan, one of Tanta Prav's familiars. He can usually be found lolling around without a care in Avoilette, seemingly uncowed by the break. Sagan frequently served as a judge's assistant in the courtrooms of Avoilette and even filled in for a judge once when they were unavailable for duty. Sadly, the verdicts he handed down were so arbitrary that everyone was overturned and he was never allowed to preside over a courtroom again. Sana, one of Tanta Prav's familiars, she can usually be found bouncing friskily around Avoilette, seemingly uncowed by the break. Sana was placed in charge of overseeing the citizens' nutrition. She would invariably encourage the people to eat more fresh fish, as Avoilette had such an ample supply of it. Some suspected that her enthusiasm was at least partially motivated by her own love of seafood, but she always claimed her recommendations were made on an entirely nutritional basis. Eldi, one of Tanta Ola's familiars. He can usually be found deep in thought around Visoria, seemingly uncowed by the break. Eldi was the most intelligent of all the familiars and could often be found helping Olas with her latest research. In fact, he was so shrewd that he came up with some surprisingly accurate theories regarding the true cause of the break. He has yet to determine how to remove it, however, and thus spends his days sadly contemplating the break-ridden Visoria, hoping to eventually discover the key to saving his beloved realm. Kenna, one of Tanta Olas's familiars, she can usually be found roaming cheerfully around Visoria, seemingly uncowed by the break. Kana was a devoted teacher to the school children of Afia. However, most Visorians cannot mention her name without being reminded of an infamous incident. On a hot summer's day in the middle of a lesson, Kenna was so drowsy that she drifted off to sleep. Her young students quickly followed suit, leading to an entire classroom full of napping children. Leite, one of Tanta Ola's familiars. He can usually be found zipping around Visoria, seemingly uncowed by the break. Olas put Leite in charge of curating the Cognoscent's extensive natural history collection. During one of his trips into the field to gather a particularly rare insect, he chased it for so long and over such a great distance that he thoroughly lost his bearings. The Cognoscents ended up sending a special unit out to find him. Zestian, one of Tanta Olas's familiars, he can usually be found lazing around Visoria, seemingly uncowed by the break. Zestian was in charge of Visoria's largest library, though he was never particularly interested in the job. He often passed his time by climbing up the many precariously leaning stacks of books, and no matter how often he got stuck somewhere too high to climb down from, he never seemed to learn his lesson. Kalpana, one of Tanta Cinta's familiars. She can usually be found pacing around Junoon, seemingly uncowed by the break. Kalpana was passionately dedicated to her research of medicinal herbs, and the development of many of Junoon's most potent medicines can be attributed to her efforts. She was a famous workaholic, often going days without a break to complete her latest experiment. Her frequent research frenzies were actually quite a nuisance to the pharmacists around her. Not a single square inch of their workstations would be left uncluttered by her work. Chini, one of Tanta Cinta's familiars, she can usually be found ambling through the fields of Junoon, seemingly uncowed by the break. Chini served as Cinta's personal attendant, spending most of her time within the walls of Junun Castle. She was not especially good at her job, being quite forgetful and easygoing by nature, but the two of them were great friends, and everybody in the castle know it. Advik, one of Tanta Cinta's familiars. He can usually be found gracefully wandering the fields of Junun, seemingly uncowed by the break. Advik was a gifted and dedicated musician and would practice for hours in preparation for his regular performances at Junun Castle. No one could fail to be impressed upon witnessing the dexterity with which he plucked the strings of his harp, all while perched on a specially built pedestal that allowed him to reach the strings. Challenges of strength. Notable enemies. Break Zombie. The husk of a human corrupted by the break. The corruption has hardened its flesh, and it can now move freely if fitfully through the miasma that has swallowed the land. It may occasionally show flashes of its former self, but make no mistake, there is nothing left. Any such actions are no more than instinctual remnants. Bogart. While superficially similar to break zombies in having retained a roughly human form, these breakborn are marked out by their superior agility and mobility. They may not be particularly strong, but their tendency to attack from behind or to throw stones from afar can make them much trickier and more frustrating opponents than seemingly more formidable foes. Gruagach. They like to attack en masse, but the size of their war parties can vary widely depending on whether they've been making new friends among their kin or fighting with other denizens of the corruption. While they're born in the places where the break is the most concentrated, they're hugely adaptable and often appear where it's less concentrated too. Varanus. This particular species of breakborn can be found all over Athia, having taken on certain reptilian characteristics in the process of becoming corrupted. They barely resemble their former human selves. They are known for their enormous tails, which they use as very effective weapons, and they can also employ poison-based attacks. Hylonomus, reptilian breakborn created in the very depths of the corruption, and which are so far removed from their former human selves that they even occasionally walk on all fours. They appear all over Athia, but only where the break is deepest, given this restriction on their territory. When they are encountered, rare to meet just one. Kelino. While they've taken on some bird-like traits in the process of becoming corrupted, this particular species can actually fly. At best, it can glide just a little way, but that doesn't mean it's not a threat. Its cries can freeze enemies on the spot, leaving them entirely defenseless if it then chooses to attack. Harpagos. Given that they're born in the most concentrated depths of the break, you might think they stick to those areas only. But while they're unable to fly, they can glide quite a distance, and are found all over Athia as a result. They have the ability to summon up chunks of minerals at will, and can use these to attack their enemies. Ogre, a monster grown massive after absorbing enormous amounts of the break. Not only is it enormous, it has also developed the ability to heal itself. Add to that its ferocious strength and its ability to attack from afar with clumps of crystal, and you have a real force to be reckoned with. They are nomadic by nature and can be found all over Athia. Goliath, a monster whose enormous intake of the break has wrought huge and irreversible changes. Just like its less corrupted cousins, it can heal itself, but its strength is even more outlandish, making it an extremely dangerous foe indeed. Luckily, it only tends to be found where the corruption is most concentrated, and as such, is only rarely encountered. Gigas. Being a breakborn, this thing must have been human once, but something very extreme indeed has happened. Whoever it once was, what happened to them, and where they once came from are facts now lost to the corruption. What is known is the horrendous power of its attacks. They don't come much stronger than this. Canis dirus. While this corrupted creature may have largely retained its former beastly form, its consciousness has been utterly lost to the break. It retains its instinct for roaming in packs though, and you will rarely come across just one. Amphision, broken wolves that roam widely across the corrupted areas between Junoon and Visoria. Having once been part of larger packs, they can howl to attract other break beasts, and not just members of their own species, but other creatures as well. Borophagus. Having been utterly corrupted by the break, these former wolves retain almost none of their original selves, and are the strongest and most deadly of their kind. Since they're born from the very depths of the break, that's where they're found for the most part as well. But in Junoon, where the wolf population has always been high, they appear even in less corrupted areas. Limnosion. These once diminutive carnivores roam the wilds near Junoon and have sprung fangs all over their bodies due to the break's effect. Even though they've grown bigger, they have lost none of their agility, and love to amble up to enemies then leap nimbly into the air before attacking. Paleonyctes. Found all over Junoon and Avoale, these carnivorous monsters have absorbed considerable amounts of the break, and in addition to the jumping attacks their kind are fond of, can also create crystalline platforms from which to launch surprise attacks, making them tricky opponents indeed. Waitoreke, carnivorous break beasts that have absorbed more of the corruption than can easily be conceived of. Their flesh has been almost entirely consumed, leaving only a break-riddled skeleton and some very patchy fur indeed. Their ability to summon crystalline substances is even more highly developed, and they even use them as projectile weapons. They can be found roaming the parts of Junoon and Avoale where the break is heaviest. Miasis. Squint, and this break-addled big cat might not look like there's much wrong with it, but open your eyes and you'll soon see that its head has been completely corrupted. These wily predators tend to prowl the parts of Pranos where the break is less dense, slowly stalking their unsuspecting prey before pouncing with deadly ferocity. Thylacoleo. The corruption has completely altered this big cat's body, and driven it to a state of truly manic ferocity. If attacked, it will instinctively strike back with powerful counter moves, and it won't hesitate for a moment before throwing itself bodily at an enemy. The species' habitat stretches over a huge area, and while they were originally found in small packs mostly around Praenos, they sometimes roam as far as Vesoria. Nunda. Having drunk deeply of the break, these truly deadly break beasts have developed thick manes and even thicker skin. Their favorite trick in battle is to distract foes with an ear-splitting roar, then jump in for the kill. Chapalania. Mutated bears driven mad by the break. Their aggression is matched only by their brute strength and enhanced paws. Arctodus. Break corrupted bears with crystalline spikes and a roar so terrifying it can freeze prey in place. Mylodon. White-furred, break-saturated bears found in deep Junoon. They summon break shards from the ground to attack. Synteras. Goats with emerging metallic growths still seen near Sipal. Locals are familiar but cautious. Kyptoceras. Heavily corrupted goats with metal legs and vast range, found from Sipo to across Praenos. Maricodos. Aggressive deer in Avoale retain instincts but now dodge, kick, and gore with massive antlers. Rhinoceros. Golden antlered deer that dig up rocks to weaponize. Sighted from Avoale to Junoon. Ilingoceros. Highly corrupted golden deer with colossal antlers, roam far beyond break zones. Milleridae, once lizards, now venomous predators with hypertoxic claws and packs stalking Praenos. Troodon. Poisonous behemoths oozing toxins from pustules. Every step leaves a deadly trail. Stegotretus. Gold-spiked lizards that flood areas with poison, found in Praenos' worst break zones. Protoceltus. Crocodiles with armor-like hides retain aquatic prowess and deadly bite. Sebecus. Golden-spined crocodiles with fins. Vomit or shards for ranged damage. Teratornis. Huge carrion birds with golden patches. Spit acid at foes from afar. Argentavis. gold-streaked scavengers needing no food but still dive to attack, found nearly everywhere. Iolornis, white and gold breakbird raining acid in massive spreads. Vorona, fast corrupted crows that dive bomb targets with swift aerial strikes. Chilenia, partially skeletal crows with gold bones, aggressive to the point of self-destruction. Sulcavis, bright white, metal-infested crows. Call allies in battle and spend Junoon to Visoria. Deinosuchus, tentacled monstrosity that swims through land, launches into deadly surprise attacks. Apsaravis, grotesque floating bird thing, rains crystal shards from above in overwhelming bursts. Riven carcass, humanoid break given form, charges with relentless fury and rare devastating blows. Riven Fang, quadrupedal break creature, overwhelms foes with concentrated corruption. Riven Claw, massive mammalian break form, charges in with brute force and aggression. Riven Antler, deer-shaped break beast, agile and deadly with its horn. Riven Jaw, reptilian break form that swims underground and explodes on impact. Riven Wing, bat-like flying break form, rains energy from above with erratic motion. Jabberwock, nightmare beast born from a break storm. Physical and magical attacks, summons king, hordes, break shards. Bandersnatch, snake-like nightmare, fires energy projectiles, burrows, and calls allies. Errant soldier, spear and shield soldier made by Scylla. Strong defense, fireball attacks, limited intellect. Recreant knight, flying Scylla soldier with long-range fire attacks, becomes enraged after taking damage. Unjust enforcer, Prav's archer with 3 arrow types, uses jumps to maintain distance. Pitiless arbiter, Prav's executioner, slow to judge but once decided delivers swift death with an axe. Senseless savant, Olas's illusion warden, can vanish, distort senses, and trap victims in eternal hallucinations. Dragon, black serpent that dominates the skies, use physical attacks and chest core energy blasts. Susurrus, reborn demon of particles and rage, defeated even the Tentus, now free to ravage Athia again. Susurrus, revenge incarnate, vast storm form of Susurrus. Hidden heart emits deadly attacks, must be approached with utmost caution. The Hermit, introspection and clarity. Most won't bother with these old texts. They want easy answers, quick fixes. But real knowledge, that takes work. In the old days, Tanta Aulas would often speak to her subjects of the vital role of education in the pursuit of a brighter future. She practiced what she preached by erecting libraries all over Athia, filling them with books containing wisdom from every one of the realms. Many an Athian learned about the world around them from the pages of these painstakingly curated books, returning to their homes and communities to share the priceless knowledge they had garnered. Visoria Castle towers imposingly over the land beneath it, visible for miles around. Within its walls resides the bulk of the great scholarly works of Athia, making it a storehouse of knowledge from across the centuries. As the number of books and the need for storage grew over the years, so did the great tower of the castle, until finally it was toppled by an earthquake, or so the stories say. Johedi is the silent guardian of Athia's intellectual legacy. As the sole custodian of the archives, she ensures that knowledge endures even as the world outside crumbles. Her fears that everything she preserves will one day be forgotten. The hermit's path is to accept loneliness in exchange for enlightenment. The archives themselves can be seen as a metaphorical lantern, illuminating the path to understanding in a world overshadowed by darkness. Johedi's stewardship ensures that the light of knowledge remains steadfast, guiding those who seek truth and wisdom. The Hermit card, numbered 9 in the Major Arcana, signifies a period of soul-searching, self-reflection, and spiritual enlightenment. It encourages withdrawal from the external world, to seek inner wisdom and understanding. Johedi's unwavering dedication to the archives and her contemplative demeanor embody these attributes, positioning her as a living representation of the hermit's virtues within the narrative of Forspoken. Robin's journey also reflects these aspects as he ventures alone into the heart of the break, sacrificing personal connections in his unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth, even if in his case it costed him to become affected by the break. A white journal containing Robion's notes on the phenomena known as Torana. One of its pages reads as follows: much remains mysterious about the Torana. They make instantaneous locomotion possible by altering space and time, but precisely how, I cannot say. The energy required to open one is enormous and increases exponentially the farther one wishes to travel. And yet I cannot help but wonder, by channeling enough power into one, could we reach another continent, perhaps even another world? The Wheel of Fortune, the ever-shifting fate. A dice-like object with symbols on some of its faces. Partha as a game of chance and fate. In Forspoken, the traditional game of Partha, where Frey can roll dice or similar pieces in a setting reminiscent of a communal ritual, is more than a simple diversion. It represents a microcosm of fate. Each roll offers unpredictable outcomes that mirror life's inherent uncertainties. This randomness is akin to the turning of a wheel, where every spin can change your fortune dramatically. The Wheel of Fortune is a powerful symbol of cyclical change. While the Tantas represent those who fall from grace due to fate's whims, the people of Sippo represent survivors caught in the wheel's motion. Unlike the Tantas, they do not wield divine power, nor do they have the luxury of dictating history. Instead, they must adapt, endure, and hope that fortune favors them once more. Justice, the law in a fractured land. Justice as judgment, the Tanta's divine authority. Avoale was the realm where all matters related to the law were ultimately litigated and judged. No matter the quarrel, Prav would weigh up the arguments placed before her and settle each dispute exactly as the law dictated. Tanta Prav commands gravity itself, and with it all that falls under its influence. She need not even deign to approach her foes, capable as she is of engaging them from afar and keeping them there for as long as she pleases. Not without good reason is it said that those who step within her sphere of influence have little choice but to surrender themselves to fate. Records from the time indicate that her knowledge of Aphia's statutes was unmatched, and her interpretation of their intricacies infallible. Though her judgments, once made, were final and absolute, very few of their subjects had reason to complain that they had been poorly treated. Each Tanta once wielded power tied to their own virtues, but their transformation turned these virtues into their shadows. Tanta Sila, the embodiment of strength and war, once defended Athia with honor but became a merciless conqueror. Tanta Prav, originally representing fairness and wisdom, descended into paranoia, turning justice into persecution. Tanta Prav's trial system. Before her fall, Prav served as Athia's chief judge, rendering verdicts with unwavering logic. However, as the break twisted her mind, she saw deceit everywhere. Justice became indiscriminate punishment rather than fair judgment, raising questions about whether justice is about truth or perception. Occult reflections. The scales of truth and the false justice of archons. In Gnostic thought, the world itself is ruled by false justice, dictated by lesser divine beings who impose law as a means of control rather than enlightenment. The Tantas, once divine protectors turned tyrants, mirror this idea. They enforce their own flawed version of justice, rather than a true higher balance. The Hanged Man, the sacrifice of self in a world beyond redemption. Frey's arrival in Athia is not a heroic entrance but a reluctant fate. She is torn from her world, left with no control over her destiny, and placed in a situation where she must either surrender to the chaos or redefine herself through suffering. The Hanged Man's Paradox. The card symbolizes a willing sacrifice, yet Frey does not initially choose her fate. Her suffering, however, forces her into a new way of seeing the world. Athia itself embodies the concept of the Hanged Man. The break has not completely destroyed it, yet it is no longer the land it once was. The people who remain live in a suspended state, neither fully alive nor entirely lost, trapped in the ruins of a world that cannot move forward but refuses to die. Death, the inevitable end that births a new beginning. We mourn what was, but do not yet see what may be. The break wiped out 99% of Athia's population within a year of first appearing, either directly or indirectly. Those who were not turned into mindless beasts by it were slain by those who had been, or worse, by the Tantas they once trusted to rule over them. The scarce few lucky enough to find their way to Sipal were the only ones to survive. Frey is a figure of transition. She is not the hero Athia expected, but she is the catalyst for its change. Unlike the Tentas, who clung to their failing world, Frey is an outsider, one who can break the cycle. The Death Arcana represents an ending that leads to rebirth, and Frey's journey reflects this. She must shed her past, abandon her illusions, and embrace a new identity to wield her full potential. Her acceptance of Athia is not just a choice to fight, it is a death of self. To become Athia's protector, she must let go of the Frey who belong to another world. The Break, a force of destruction or metamorphosis. The Break is not merely a plague, it is a force of transformation. The land, the creatures, even the people who succumb to it are not simply destroyed but changed. The Death card is about surrendering to necessary change. Athia cannot go back to what it was. To move forward, it must fully die and be reborn into something else. Temperance. Alchemy, synthesis, and inner equilibrium. Temperance traditionally embodies balance, the patient fusion of opposites, and the art of self-transformation. In Forspoken, this archetype manifests through Frey's journey as a living synthesis between New York and Athia, science and magic, human and supernatural, chaos and order. The crafting system as literal alchemy. Forspoken's gameplay centers on collecting natural resources, plants, ores, mana, and combining them to craft potions, upgrade gear, and strengthen Frey's abilities. This literal act of synthesis is the core of Temperance: patience, balance, and transformation. Frey's duality. Her struggle is not to reject either her mundane origins or her newfound power, but to reconcile them. Temperance is this virtue, not erasure of the self, but its integration. Elemental flow in combat, switching fluidly between elemental magics, earth, fire, water, requires harmony and control. Frey's mastery of these powers embodies the alchemical metaphor, disparate forces blended into a coherent whole. The intermediary role, like the angelic figure on the traditional temperance card pouring water from one cup to another, Frey becomes the conduit between the fractured remnants of Athia and its salvation. She is the mediator between worlds, between human frailty and arcane might, transmuting exile into empowerment. The Devil. Cuff as the archetype of temptation, power, and bondage. The devil is not merely a symbol of evil, but of bondage, illusion, and temptation, the seductive prison willingly entered. In Forspoken, this archetype is perfectly embodied by Cuff, Frey's constant companion, at once a guide, a source of power, and an invisible jailer. From their first encounter, Cuff offers Frey the alluring possibility of escape from her mundane life, her vulnerabilities, her mortality. But this promise comes with hidden chains, the creeping erosion of her agency. Cuff is not a cartoonish villain. He is a sarcastic mentor, a provider of power, but also a manipulator with concealed motives. Like the archetypal devil, he represents the seductive voice, rationalizes bondage as necessity. The traditional devil card shows humans bound by chains they could remove, but choose not to. Frey's relationship with Cuff mirrors this. She clings to him for power and survival, unaware that her dependence may be her greatest constraint. Frey cannot remove Cuff, he is fused to her very being. The power he bestows is both blessing and curse, making her the classic figure in the devil's domain, bound not by force but by need. The devil's snare is not force, but the illusion that the cage is a sanctuary. The Tower. Cataclysm and upheaval. The land burned, the towers fell, order unraveled, and chaos claimed the throne. Frey's actions, though driven by hope, shattered the last fragile barriers that kept Susurrus imprisoned in a withering limbo. His full return is a cataclysm, a dark resurrection that plunges Athia into its most violent upheaval. As Susurrus surges forth, his presence alone distorts the air, bending light and will alike. He descends upon Sipal, the last bastion of human resistance, with apocalyptic fury. What once stood as a sanctuary becomes a battlefield, its walls reduced to mere stage props in a conflict that will decide the fate of an entire world. The battle against Susurrus unfolds as a desperate, mythic struggle, escalating through three distinct and harrowing phases. The aerial clash. Frey soars alongside Tantacinta, resurrected in draconic form, through storm-torn skies. Susurrus, now a monstrous amalgam of shadow and elemental rage, hovers above Sipal like a harbinger of ruin. Together, Frey and Cinta weave through the maelstrom, targeting the few vulnerable points in his ever-shifting form. The murmuration phase. Forced to the ground, Susurrus shifts tactics. His inhuman voice manifests as a literal murmuration, a swirling mass of corrupted creatures summoned from the very essence of Athia's decayed lands. Projectiles of ruin rain down as Frey navigates the crumbling streets of Sipal, dodging blasts while striking at the heart of the corruption. Here, Frey must balance precision and endurance, channeling all she has learned in her journey. The final stand. In the climax, Susurrus sheds his monstrous veneer to reveal a humanoid form, more terrifying in its familiarity. No longer a distant force of nature, but an adversary who looks her in the eye, reflecting both what Athia has lost and what she could become. His attacks now carry surgical precision, devastating magic, relentless strikes, and reality-warping abilities. Frey must wield her full arsenal, combining elemental mastery, evasive skip maneuvers, and hard-earned tactical prowess to overcome him. With each blow exchanged, the stakes transcend personal survival. They become the crucible in which Athia's future is forged. Whether it will be reborn or finally succumb to ruin depends entirely on Frey's resolve. The tower has fallen, but in its ruin a new path may yet be built. The Star. Radiance renewed. In the heart of battle, a hidden power awakens, propelling the bearer beyond the limits of time. Frey's emergent powers, a manifestation of inner light. In the climactic battle against Susurrus, Frey Holland discovers an extraordinary ability known as the Skip. This power enables her to momentarily transcend time and space, effectively dodging attacks and repositioning herself with unparalleled agility. Frey's acquisition of the Skip ability during her battle with Susurrus aligns seamlessly with the Star archetype. This newfound power not only enhances her combat capabilities, but also symbolizes a pivotal moment of personal growth and empowerment. Embracing this ability, Frey transcends her previous limitations, embodying the essence of hope, renewal, and the unwavering pursuit of a brighter future for Athia. The Tanta's unified strength, a convergence of powers. In a pivotal moment during the battle with Susurrus, Frey channels the combined magical essence of the four Tantas, Scylla, Prav, Aulus, and Cinta. This convergence amplifies her abilities, granting her access to a diverse array of elemental attacks and fortifying her resolve. The Tantas' spirits lend their strength, wisdom, and guidance, transforming Frey into a formidable force capable of confronting the malevolent entity threatening their world. Notable items and gear: Old coin, pre-break Athian currency, now mainly barterable with collectors. Storm shards, trigger break storms in dense break zones. Hooded cloak, an ordinary cloak that wouldn't look out of place draped around the shoulders of your average Athian. Despite clearly being stitched together from spare bits of fabric, its surprisingly sturdy construction provides pretty good protection from the elements and even the occasional attack. Odin gave it to Frey in the hope that its grungy appearance would help her blend in with the locals. Valorous, a cloak designed by Tanta Scylla. While it won't keep out the rain or snow, the enchantments woven into its fabric will certainly keep the wearer safe on the battlefield. When Praenos' castle was lost to the corruption, many assumed this labeled garment would never be seen again. Thankfully, it seems someone stashed it away for a worthy adventurer to eventually find. Dauntless, a cloak Tantaila once wore into battle. Legend has it that the subdued color palette was chosen in order to prevent the inevitable stains of extended combat from standing out. Tyla didn't much care for this particular consideration, however, declaring that any fight she chose to enter would be over before any such concerns might need addressing. Unstoppable. An uncharacteristically ornate cloak for the usually ruthlessly practical Tanta Sila. It's undoubtedly of the highest quality, with powerful enchantments woven into its very fabric, but unfortunately, by the time it was completed, Scylla was so obsessed with perfecting her armor that this fine item was left to gather dust in the castle vault. Judicious. A lightweight cloak that Tanta Prav liked to wear when relaxing outside of her official duties. Though it began life as an entirely unmagical object, long years of contact with a powerful sorceress imbued it with her powers, granting it the protective capabilities it boasts today. Faultless. A cloak with an air of stately gravity designed specifically for Prav to wear when performing her duties as a Tenta. While no enchantments were used in its making, extended exposure to the white-hot power of righteousness transformed it into a potent, magical object. So much so that she never went out in public without it. Infallible. This elaborately embellished cloak was designed for Tanta Prav to wear during the most solemn of court proceedings. Thankfully, in a land as peaceful as Athia once was, she rarely had occasion to wear it outside of the events that followed the purge of the Red Dig. For this reason, few would recognize it now, perhaps not even her fellow Tentas. Audacious, a cloak imbued with light protective powers that was designed by Tanta Olas to wear when embarking on knowledge-gathering expeditions in the wild. It was intended for everyday use, and as such, more than a few were made. Most were destroyed by the encroaching break, but luckily this one escaped its ravages. Boundless, a cloak Tanta Olas habitually wore when performing her official duties. While the fur and other embellishments may give it an air of formality, it's also pretty rugged, and she would often go straight from the day-to-day duties of ruling her realm to roaming the lands beyond her castle in search of knowledge, without even stopping for a change of clothes. Unsurpassable. This elaborately decorated cloak was the most glamorous in Tanta Ala's collection, and its glittering adornments made it her accessory of choice for celebratory occasions. While it offers as much protection as Olas's everyday cloaks, if not more, it was mostly kept in storage and saved for only the most important events. Many believed it was lost when Visoria Castle was consumed by the break, but thankfully that was not the case. Gracious. A comfortable, lightweight cloak that Cinta wore as part of her everyday attire. She enjoyed the freedom of movement its relatively simple design afforded her, And while it might not be enchanted with the most powerful magic, it's certainly protective enough to be worth wearing. Fearless, Tanta Cinta's favorite cloak for duties which took her outside the castle, and as such the one most Athenians were familiar with. It offers good protection while still enabling easy movement, perfect for Torana hopping. Incomparable. A highly protective cloak fashioned from the finest and most magically potent materials. Sadly, due to its comparatively weighty construction, Tanta Cinta, who hated being weighed down, rarely wore it, and it spent most of its life in storage. Most people assumed that it was lost when Junoon fell to the break. Leaf, an ancient cloak that was sealed away in the depths of one of Aphia's locked labyrinths. The former owner was a kind-hearted warrior who was well loved for her selfless acts on the battlefield. She would often risk life and limb to come to the aid of the wounded, making her eye-catching cloak a common feature in the tales of war of the times. Puissant, an ancient cloak that was sealed away in the depths of one of Aphia's locked labyrinths. The former owner was a legendary warrior renowned for her unsurpassed courage. No matter how grim the situation might appear, she would boldly lead the charge, never faltering for an instant. She became such an inspiration to her troops that the sight of her signature cloak alone would hugely boost morale, spurring the Aphian army on to victory on more than one occasion. Divers, an ancient cloak that was sealed away in the depths of one of Aphia's locked labyrinths. The former owner was a resourceful warrior, most famous for her role in reversing the fate of her homeland. When the Aphian army was all but decimated in a particularly bloody battle, she rallied what meager survivors she could find and organized them into a makeshift militia. This unorthodox group of soldiers and civilians successfully drove the invading forces from the land. Fane, an ancient cloak that was sealed away in the depths of one of Aphia's locked labyrinths. The former owner was the commander of the 1st Tanta's Elite Guard, a unit famed for its unwavering discipline both on and off the battlefield, and whose victories are still spoken of in Aphian legend. Bonifate, the former owner was the commander of a detachment responsible for a key Aphian victory. While the bulk of the Aphian forces marched to face their enemies head-on, her unit successfully flanked the enemy, taking them by surprise and ultimately securing the main force enough of an advantage to prevail. Wylome, the former owner was a master tactician who only rarely appeared on the battlefield. Instead, she provided invaluable support from behind the scenes, endlessly deliberating military strategy with the 1st Tanta. Monsterful. The identity of its former owner is unknown, although some clues can be found by examining the cloak itself. Its remarkable quality and unique construction suggest that they were no ordinary Aphian. Forfend. The former owner was a warrior nicknamed Stonewall for her steadfast defense of the territory entrusted to her by the 1st Tanta. Accounts of the battle in which she earned the title claim that the defense she mounted was so successful that not a single enemy made it through the line. Veriment. The former owner was none other than the very 1st Tanta. Legend has it that she and her 7 most trusted warriors fought tirelessly to defend Aphia from a great evil. Their hard-won victory paved the way for Aphia's growth and prosperity in the years to come. Unbroken. A cloak that stands as a testament to how far Frey's crafting skills have come. It's unlike anything else in Aphia, being based on various influences from New York, but thanks to the rare and potent materials used to make it, it's the equal, if not the superior, of any other Tanta's cloak out there. Cat's Meow. A cloak clearly put together with cat fanatics in mind. Its daring design features so many adorable feline friends that the wearer will never feel alone. While it's clearly not made with Aphian tastes in mind, there are enough kitty lovers in Sipal and the surrounding area that it's sure to attract an envious look or two nonetheless. Elite. A cloak which seems to be specially designed to optimize the wearer's performance. It's different from anything made in Athia, and even the materials it's made from seem like something from another world. Its unique look, with an intriguing linear motif that is also used in the accompanying nail design and necklace, seems to signify something important, although it's not clear exactly what. Important to note the original and refreshing use of arcane nail designs as gear. Multiple sets include bounce. The symbols Frey has used in this design are a common sight in Athian homes, as the locals believe they bring good health. While all five form a complete set, many Athians simply pick a favorite with which to decorate their walls or personal belongings. This design boosts the healing power of medicinal items. Slay. The symbols that make up this design are believed by Athenians to have motivational powers, and as such are most commonly seen painted on items used for work or study. Interestingly, the positioning of the symbols tends to differ depending on where you go. Some parts of Athia draw them in a line, for instance, while others draw them as the points of a pentagon. This design boosts the effects of support magic, lit. The unusually complex symbols used in this design are derived from an ancient Athenian script. They are believed to energize the people around them, which is why they are often found at construction sites and other places where heavy manual labor is carried out. This design boosts the damage dealt by attack magic. Clutch. In Athenian folklore, these symbols are said to represent the vitality of nature. As such, they are closely associated with healing, and worried parents will often paint them on the beds of sick children. This design boosts the healing power of medicinal items used when the wearer is badly injured. Blue flash. The bold blue patterns of this nail design symbolize potential bubbling up from within and flowing out into the world. Athenians customarily decorate items with them before examinations or tests in the hope of inspiring success. Interestingly, the precise designs seem to be less important than the striking shade of blue itself. This design allows attack magic to be used more frequently. Boku. Frey's inspiration for this striking design was the unique blend of colors and symbols that Athenians believe represent the benefits that hard work and experience bring. Due to the complexity of the symbols, they are not often seen in Athenian homes, especially as the aesthetic isn't to everyone's taste. This design boosts the charging speed of surge magic in proportion to the number of spells Frey has learned. Savage. The abstract symbols that inspired this design were derived from the patterns with which ancient Athenian tools and clothing were decorated. These symbols have come to represent gratitude for the blessings handed down by one's ancestors. This design boosts the impact of Frey's magic in proportion to the number of spells she has learned. On point. This eye-catching design is inspired by certain decorative patterns Athenians have long used to bring good fortune. They are traditionally made using luminous paint. While opinions differ throughout the realms as to the exact nature of the good fortune they bring or what the specific effects are, no one is in any doubt that they're very beneficial indeed. This design boosts the potency of attack magic under certain conditions. Nightshade. Frey's inspiration for this sari design was a symbol believed to represent the power of night. As to what precisely the power of night might be, nobody seems to have a clue, but that hasn't stopped generations of curious Athenians from drawing upon its aesthetic appeal. This design may grant a poisoning effect to attack magic charged beyond a certain level. Ignite. The alternating pattern used on these nails is often seen painted on the walls of Athenian buildings in the belief that it will grant protection from fire. The speckled black is said to symbolize falling ash. Interestingly, however, the original intent of the design was the opposite. Rather than driving back the flames, the user would be granted the power to control them. This design may grant a burning effect to attack magic charge beyond a certain level. The third. Though you might not know it to look at it, the individual elements of this design were inspired by the body parts of various animals. While it's quite negative in intent, the intended effect being to inflict harm on living creatures, Athenian farmers have found it useful for pest control, often painting it on the outside of the fences inside which their precious crops and livestock are kept. This design extends the duration of status ailments inflicted by the spells Frey casts. Passion. The symbols that inspired this design are traditionally associated with valor and might, so it's no surprise that they came to represent the Tanta of strength. Very few Athenians ever dared to recreate them for fear of the repercussions it might bring. This design boosts the potency of Scylla's magic. The more of her spells Frey has learned, the more damage they will inflict. Frostbite. The icy colors and patterns that comprise this design are believed to have a cooling effect and are therefore often used in smithies to counteract the sweltering temperatures. This design may grant an immobilizing effect to attack magic charged beyond a certain level. Heavy. The striking shade of blue and unique patterns used in this design are most commonly seen in artworks produced in the distinctive style of Ave Voilette, making it strongly redolent of that realm. Its supposed ability to bring punishment upon wrongdoers also invokes the spirit of Tanta Prav. This design extends the duration of status ailments inflicted by Prav's magic. Dig deep. This design's dark yet powerful palette was once associated by Athenians with the deep sea and the vast potential that sleeps therein. The idea of drawing on that power, however, attracted negative associations over the years, until Athens began to avoid using these colors at all, for fear of being seen as unprepared to draw on their own potential. This design allows surge magic to be used more frequently. Wired. Though some seem to think that the meandering lines of this design were inspired by the image of a labyrinth, they're more commonly understood to represent lightning, and are often found painted on the tops of towers and other tall buildings in the hopes of channeling nature's ferocity away from those it might otherwise harm. This design may grant an electrifying effect to attack magic charged beyond a certain level. Wisdom. The imagery from which this design is drawn has its base in Visorian tradition, where such colors and patterns have long been believed to bless the user with intelligence. While one would imagine this might make it very popular, it has instead come to be viewed as a mark of stupidity, since a person would have to lack natural brain power in order to resort to such a cry for help. As such, most Athenians tend to steer away from using it at all. This design boosts the potency of Ola's magic in proportion to the number of her spells Frey has learned. Twisted. The iridescent hues of this design bring to mind dancing flames, or at least they do to some. Others have long argued over what the intended image might be or indeed the resulting effect. This design extends the duration of status ailments inflicted by Scylla's magic. Aftershock. A classy design incorporating glorious gold touches. It's so dazzlingly refined that it can literally blow those who see it away. This design causes killer blows to emit powerful shock waves. Tease. The arcane symbols this design was based on have lost their meaning over the years, though some believe them to be inspired by certain traditional art forms. Nowadays, they are generally only ever imitated for aesthetic purposes by particularly devoted admirers of the Tantas. This design extends the duration of status ailments inflicted by Ola's magic. Hope. The pattern featured in this design is believed by the Athenians to symbolize personal growth. It is often used for young children's clothes in the hopes of helping them unlock their full potential both physically and mentally. This design boosts the potency of Frey's magic. The more of her spells Frey has learned, the more damage they will inflict. Escalate. This design was inspired by the image of swirling storm clouds, something Athenians traditionally associate with the taming of wild forces in order to reach greater heights in life. For this reason, it's often found on the walls of craftsmen's workshops, but only those deemed skillful enough to channel such forces effectively. This design allows Frey to unleash consecutive killer blows. Amped. The intent of this elaborate design is to show that the person employing it is unbowed by life's challenges and is rising to meet them with aplomb. This design makes Frey's magic more effective the more enemies she's facing. Flaunt, a vibrant design intended to lift revelers' spirits at traditional Athean festivals. It's so bright and breezy, however, that those who aren't in the mood can sometimes find themselves demoralized by it. This design boosts Frey's magical prowess when her HP is high and reduces it when her HP is low. Fatal. Frey's inspiration for mixing and matching this array of colorful gemstones was the imagery often used by Athenians for community events to symbolize the idea of unity in diversity. This design enables Frey to down enemies more easily the more spells she has learned. Blessed. This design is based on the wide variety of accessories with which Athenians once joyfully expressed their individuality. While it's rare to see such decorative flourishes in use today, this makes it all the more striking when they do make an appearance. This design increases the likelihood that Frey will land critical hits. Grit. Traditionally associated with the loneliness required to excel in one's chosen field, this design is favored by those determined to persevere regardless of hardship. Its stark appearance reflects a certain quiet strength, often seen as emblematic of unwavering resolve. This design boosts the effectiveness of Frey's magic the lower her HP becomes. Spectrum. A vibrant design symbolizing the unification of humanity's most virtuous forces. Bright, colorful, and brimming with optimism, some say once you notice it, you'll begin to see it everywhere. This design increases the chance of landing critical hits based on the number of spells Frey has learned. Wicked, an enigmatic design whose origins are lost to time. The small dots atop each nail represent magical power radiating from within, though its intended effect remains unknown. This design enhances the damage dealt by killer blows. Covet. This mysterious pattern is formed from countless tiny shapes, each said to embody a hidden wish. Though its original purpose is forgotten, its effect remains potent. When worn, healing items accelerate the recharge rate of surge magic. Overclock, a sharp modern design with a futuristic edge, unrelated to the Tantas yet still compatible with break-infused materials. Its intricate lines hum with latent potential. When surge magic is fully charged, this pattern causes support magic to recharge more quickly. Notable artifact necklaces include Fulsa. Once owned by Tanta Cinta, this necklace's name means flower-like. She gifted it to Robian as a token of hope before his journey to find a cure for the break. He carried it for luck until it was lost while saving village children. Baile Baile. Named after an exclamation of pure joy, this necklace once brought Tanta Cinta to tears of laughter. Though she fondly teased her subjects for embellishing the tale, she never denied its charm. Nadezhda, meaning hope. This necklace once belonged to Tanta Saila. Its design is as functional as it is beautiful. Each stone enhances battle prowess, making it as much a weapon as a jewel. Sarka. Named after a mythical warrior maiden, this rugged necklace was among Scylla's ceremonial favorites. It vanished after the break, last seen in the vaults of Praenos Castle. Aslani. Worn by Tanta Prav, this regal necklace was named after the lion. Noble and commanding. She wore it so often at court, few could picture her without it. Yavuz Gagant, dubbed the Icy Arbiter, this necklace reflected Prav's cool, composed sense of justice. Fittingly, she gave it the nickname herself, perhaps as a gentle reminder to stay humble. Oither, Designed by Tanta Aulas to enhance magical ability, this piece spares no luxury. Named for riches, it reflects both her arcane genius and uncompromising pursuit of excellence. Tesouro de Atia. Once hailed as the finest necklace in all Athia, its obsidian strands dazzled banquet guests. Olas kept it displayed in Visoria Castle until it vanished during the break. Arson. Recovered from the depths of a locked labyrinth, this necklace once belonged to a warrior so swift and selfless she seemed to be everywhere at once, always arriving just when she was needed most. Shrift. The former owner was a famously severe commander who gave orders to her troops with the utmost efficiency and precision. She was just as capable of fighting as she was of managing her battalion, making her a truly formidable foe. Trough. Also sealed deep within a labyrinth, this relic was worn by a legendary warrior, ever loyal, never seen without it. So revered was she, soldiers believed even a glimpse of her necklace could ensure victory. Sooth. Said to belong to Athia's most brilliant commander, this labyrinth-sealed necklace carries a legacy of strategy and subtlety. Her rare battlefield appearances were elegant, devastating, and decisive. Home Sweet Hell. Crafted by Frey herself, this necklace reflects her chaotic genius. The name, a nod to her gritty life in New York, came uninvited but stuck. Like its maker, it's bold, sharp, and unforgettable. Spectra Combo, a daring, stylish piece that shows off Frey's full craftsmanship potential. Though not Tanta-made, its mystical energy rivals their finest work, radiant, refined, and uniquely her. The Moon, unveiling illusions and alternate realities. Not all is as it seems. The veil between worlds is thinner than you think. In Forspoken, the moon archetype is intricately woven into the narrative through Tantaolas's manipulation of illusions and the existence of alternate realities. Her ability to create convincing illusions traps Frey in a distorted version of New York City, challenging her perception of reality and self. This encounter underscores the moon's themes of illusion and self-discovery. The all-knowing Tantaolas has the ability to weave illusions more real than reality itself. Though there may once have been a limit to this power, the phantom lanterns she has come to employ grant her a phantasmal skill so great that she can summon entire cities from thin air one might spend 1,000 years in and never see for the mirages they are. Lamp-like contraptions which give off light due to the dense concentration of Allah's powers stored within. Their unique construction enables them to amplify this power, creating illusions indistinguishable from reality, illusions not just of static scenery, but of living, breathing beings. Enough of these lanterns in concert can create entire hallucinatory worlds, fantasies in which the unsuspecting can become completely lost. The illusions crafted by Tanta Aulas represent the deceptive facades that can obscure true intentions and realities. Frey's ability to see through these illusions and confront the truths they conceal mirrors the journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. This narrative element invites players to reflect on the nature of perception, the ease with which reality can be manipulated, and the importance of seeking truth amidst deception. In occult traditions, the moon is a powerful symbol of mystery and the subconscious. Gnosticism teaches that the visible world is a shadow of a higher reality, a realm where illusions mask the divine truth. In Athia, the pervasive deceptions challenge the inhabitants to look beyond surface appearances. Hermeticism reminds us that as above, so below, suggesting that the celestial dance of the moon governs not only the night sky but also the inner workings of the soul. The illusions wrought by the break may well be a reflection of an inner darkness that must be confronted to attain true enlightenment. The sun. illumination, and self-realization in Forspoken. While the Sun card often heralds success, its deeper connotations in Forspoken emphasize the importance of inner harmony and enlightenment. Frey's narrative underscores that true victory is not merely about external accomplishments, but also about achieving a profound connection with one's inner light. In essence, the sun archetype in Forspoken serves as a metaphor for the illuminating power of self-awareness and the transformative journey toward authenticity. Frey's evolution from a place of doubt to one of clarity and purpose encapsulates the sun's enduring message that enlightenment and renewal are attainable through introspection and the courage to embrace one's true self. Judgment. The final reckoning. In the end, all choices converge at judgment, where every act, every secret, and every sacrifice is weighed against the scales of destiny. Traditionally, the judgment card embodies spiritual awakening, a call to higher consciousness and self-realization. As Frey stands at the crossroads of fate, she faces revelations that challenge her understanding of self and purpose. The demon of legend, Susurrus, was once bound by the very first Tenta of Athia. Years later, invaders from Reda found a way to free him, unleashing him upon Athia once more. A pregnant Sinta joined her fellow Tentas to put a stop to Susurrus's rampage, and with much difficulty they successfully divided the demon's power, binding him again within 4 bracelets. Unveiling of origins, discovering her lineage as the daughter of Tanta Sinta, the Tanta of love, Frey grapples with the weight of her heritage and the expectations it entails. Presented with the choice to return to New York or confront Susurrus, Frey's decision embodies the Judgment card's essence, facing the past to shape the future. Her actions catalyze the healing of a fractured land, symbolizing the dawn of a new era, the world revisited. In Tanta We Trust, set 25 years before the events of the main game, the DLC transports Frey Holland back in time to the Purge of the Red Dig. This battle is central to Athia's history, marking the beginning of the Break's spread and the unraveling of the realm's once prosperous state. In her quest to eradicate the lingering effects of the Break, Frey follows a mysterious voice that leads her to a strange artifact. Upon interaction, she's transported into the past, inhabiting the body of Thalia, a soldier serving under Tanta Sinta. This embodiment allows Frey to experience the events leading up to the Purge firsthand. Throughout her journey, Frey, as Thalia, is accompanied by Tanta Sinta, the Tanta of love. Thalia somehow becomes a vessel for the entity in the glooming ritual, and Sinta was sent to kill her to avoid this explosion to reach the people of Athia, traversing the war-torn landscapes of Visoria. Through her experiences as Thalia, Frey gains a nuanced understanding of the complexities and moral ambiguities that led to Athia's current state. Using the absorbing light-like powers of the trees while fighting the enemies Thalia expands on magics, similar to the ones we already know, but with the same element of Susurrus, which was finally shown to be the incubation of the glooming ritual all along. Moth-like swarm motifs, attraction to light. Moths symbolize the dangerous pull toward illumination. Susurrus lures victims with brilliance, then consumes their inner spark. Transformation. Moths undergo metamorphosis. Here, Susurrus uses corrupted light to forcibly transform flesh. Nocturnal portent. Moths are harbingers of death in many traditions. Susurrus's magic carries that same omen. Concluding reflections. Embracing the unknown. As we traverse Forspoken, we're invited to question the nature of reality, the self, and the unseen forces that shape our existence. This world serves as a metaphorical journey toward enlightenment, urging us to look beyond surface perceptions and seek deeper truths. In the spirit of Gnostic inquiry, we leave you with contemplative questions. What is the true nature of Frey's reality, and by extension our own? Are our perceptions merely shadows on the wall of a greater, unfathomable truth? How do we discern the real from the illusory in a world rife with deception? One should not have to dwell in a world without explicit magic or truly rewarding trials to conquer. Still, here we are, searching. May your own journey be one of discovery, questioning, and awakening. Consider supporting Arcana's Index via Patreon in the links or QR codes so we can expand and keep doing the work without the need for sponsor fees. Thank you for watching.